All right, today we're digging into the rulebook for Canada's National Police Force. And this isn't just any set of rules. We're talking about the actual blueprint for its power, its structure, and, most importantly, its accountability. This is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Act. Let's get right into it.
So think about it for a second. You've got this huge, powerful organization that operates right across the country. It begs a really basic question. Who's in charge? Who actually writes the rules of the road for them to make sure they operate in the public's best interest?
Well, the answer is right here. It's all laid out in this one federal law. The RCMP Act covers pretty much everything, from the top of the command chain right down to how a regular person like you or me can file a complaint. It's the whole shebang.
Okay, so where do we even begin with a document like this? Let's start right at the top. The first thing the Act does is lay out a very clear chain of command. It defines who has authority, and, this part is key, it makes sure there's civilian oversight. And this is a really big deal in any democracy, right? The whole idea is that the police work for the public, through the elected government, not the other way around. But how does the Act actually make that happen? This is where it gets pretty interesting. You can see how the Act builds in that civilian control. Right at the top, you've got the governor and council, which is basically the federal cabinet, and they're the ones who appoint the RCMP commissioner. They also appoint the commanding officers for all the divisions. And notice that last part. It's the civilian minister of public safety who makes the deals for provincial policing. You can see the pattern here, right? The power is designed to flow downwards from the elected government. All right, so that's the big picture, the structure of command. But what about the individual officer on the street? What are the rules for them? Well, the Act gets right into that, setting up a really detailed rulebook, a code of conduct, for every single member. And this line, right here from Section 37 of the Act, is pretty much the heart of it all. This isn't just some nice-to-have idea or a friendly suggestion. No, it's a stated legal duty. That one sentence sets the entire standard for how an officer is expected to behave. And it goes even deeper. The Act lays out these other core responsibilities. Members have to be impartial. They have to steer clear of any conflicts of interest. And check out this last one, because it's a big one. They have a duty to not cover up or let misconduct from other officers continue. Again, these aren't just ideals. They're hard and fast legal obligations. Okay, so you've got this rulebook. Great. But a rulebook is only as good as its enforcement, right? What happens when someone is accused of breaking these very fundamental rules? What gives the code its teeth? Well, the Act sets up a very clear, step-by-step internal process. It all starts with an allegation, which kicks off a formal investigation. From there, it can go to a formal hearing, where a conduct board looks at all the evidence. And if they decide, yep, this happened, the consequences can be pretty serious. We're talking everything from financial penalties all the way to getting dismissed from the force. But here's something you might not know. Accountability isn't just a one-way street in this Act. It also has a system in place for the members themselves. So what happens when an officer feels like they've been treated unfairly by the organization? That's where this formal grievance process comes in. It gives members a way to officially challenge decisions they think are unfair. Things related to their job like a demotion or a transfer. It's basically an internal system to make sure there's fairness within the ranks, too. Okay, so that's for members. But what about you or me? What if a regular citizen has a complaint? Well, you don't go through that same internal system. And this is important. The Act creates a completely different road for the public. And honestly, this is absolutely crucial for public trust. The whole point is that people need a way to make a complaint that's independent, that's outside of the police's own internal structure. It has to feel fair and impartial from the very start. So here's the breakdown. For members, there's the External Review Committee, or the ERC. They look at internal grievances and conduct appeals, and they make recommendations. But for the public, there's a totally separate body, the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission, the CRCC. It's an independent agency, and its one and only job is to handle our complaints. See the difference? Two distinct bodies, two totally different jobs. All right, let's talk about the most serious situations imaginable, the ones where an incident involving an officer leads to serious injury or even death. The Act has a very specific game plan for these critical moments. And the law doesn't mess around here. It's super specific. It defines exactly what a serious incident is. As soon as something fits that definition, a whole different set of protocols kicks in automatically. It's all about making sure these cases get the most intense scrutiny possible. And this gets to a really important point, something people worry about a lot: the idea of police investigating police. The Act actually tackles this head on. To maintain public trust, the law says that when a serious incident happens, the RCMP has to consider bringing in an outside body to investigate.
So, what are the options? Well, the investigation could go to a different police force, or, and this is a big one, it can go to a special provincial body that's set up just for this kind of thing. The whole reason this is written into the law is to give the public confidence, to show that these incredibly serious cases are being looked at by a fresh, unbiased set of eyes.
So when you take a step back and look at the whole thing, you start to see what the RCMP Act is really all about. It's not just a random collection of rules. It's a framework that's constantly trying to perform a very careful balancing act. It's a balancing act between two huge things. On one side, you need a strong, effective national police force to keep people safe. But on the other side, you absolutely have to have public accountability. The entire act is this push and pull between granting power and, at the very same time, making sure that power is always kept in check. And that really brings us to the big forward-looking question, doesn't it? This act isn't set in stone. It's changed before, and it will definitely change again. So as our world evolves, with new technology, different public expectations, and the very nature of policing changing, the real challenge is, how does this fundamental rulebook keep up? How do we make sure it stays relevant and just for the challenges of tomorrow?